You are watching the ACC on ESPN from the campus of Florida State University and the capital city of the Sunshine State, where cooler weather is in the air, but the 7-0 Florida State Seminoles are plenty hot on the season as they take on the 1-6 Greyhounds of Loyola out of the Patriot League. Hi there, everybody. Sean Davidson alongside a former Seminole and Adrian Crawford. And Adrian, I think we've been talking about how good Florida State is, but now that they've beaten number 5 Florida on the road, how good is this team really?
I think when we were on the air last, I think we just talked about it. I think this Florida State team is as good as a top 10 team in the country. I think they're playing well together. They're tough defensively. They're blocking shots, and they're scoring the basketball, and they're playing well right now. I think they're one of the hottest teams in America right now.
Now, this is a Loyola team that is injury-laden, but if they are going to pick up the upset, they will first turn to Cam Gregory, who scored 19 points and recorded 8 rebounds against Mount St. Mary's.
Cam Gregory is a big-time player in the Patriot League. He's a guy who's probably going to be a first-team All-Patriot League guy, 90 double-double type of guy, but he's going to have to go against this height and the size of Florida State, which could cause him some trouble tonight.
Now, Adrian, I don't know what you've been up to the last couple of days, but all Terrence Mann has done is set a new career high against Florida, 25 points.
Man, Terrence Mann has just played at just an epic high level so far. Again, one of the things that he's done and he's improved on is his ability to attack the basketball, keeping the ball high, finishing, and he is just bringing such a high level of energy to this Florida State team, really taking that leadership role that was left last year from Dwayne Bacon and Xavier Rattan-Mays.
Seminoles are 7-0 for the first time since the 2008-2009 season. They're trying to go 8-0 today. We'll get you set with opening lineups and the opening tip here in a couple of moments. So, the Florida State Seminoles taking on the Greyhounds of Loyola. Now just seconds away as starters are being introduced to a growing crowd here in Tallahassee, Florida. The head coach for Loyola is G.G. Smith, a 1999 Georgia graduate. Adrian, he's Tubby Smith's son, and he was part of that coaching staff for Loyola when they made their repeat trip back to the NCAA tournament in 2012.
Yeah, G.G. Smith is, again, comes in that line of the coaching tree, and again is a up-and-coming young coach, and again doing a great job at Loyola. They've had some struggles at the beginning of the year, but they've had a lot of injuries as well, and so as he's wading through this group to try to get them healthy before the beginning of the Patriot League.
I misspoke there. They're trying to make their repeat trip after going to their first NCAA tournament in 2012. Smith introduced as the head coach in 2013. And now how about these Seminoles? Well documented, a win over number 5 Florida. You've seen those kinds of wins as the starters are being introduced where somebody goes unconscious and they lead their team to a win. Make no mistake about it, Adrian, this was an all-encompassing, all-around victory in which Florida State lined up and in every aspect beat those Gators down in Gainesville.
Yes, you know, this Florida State basketball team, any given night, you could have anywhere between, I mean, this could be 5 or 6 different guys who could actually be the leading scorer. I mean, from C.J. Walker to Phil Kofer to Trent Forrest, coming out there to Terrence Mann. And again, that's what makes this Florida State team so lethal this year, is that you're not just dependent on one guy, but you have a multitude of guys. That's why I believe we have 4 guys right now in double figures, a well-balanced team, but led by Terrence Mann.
It was mentioned on the broadcast a couple of days ago that there might not be a single solitary first-team All-ACC player on this squad, maybe Terrence Mann, but there's a lot of really good players out there that can really shoot the ball and spread that floor, and this is a team that defensively, against a Florida team that was averaging nearly 100 points a game, got back to that Leonard Hamilton junkyard dog defense, held the Gators to 66 and forced them to cough the ball up 17 times.
Yes, this Florida State basketball team and their defensive principles are based on team defense. It is covering up for one another. And again, Florida State Leonard Hamilton basketball teams are really good when they have a rim protector, you know, and with having big Ike inside, rim protecting as well as Calvin Gali as well. I mean, he's doing just a great job. And Phil Kofer with just seeing him come back healthy, those ankles being there. I mean, he has played at a level that I don't think anyone expected coming here, especially even the coaching staff. But, man, it's a pleasant surprise, and he's a big part of this Seminole success this year.
Phil Kofer, perhaps you could say the heart and soul of this Seminole team, considering what he's dealt with and how he is the senior leader. The only Seminole in program history to beat Florida 4 times. So a little badge of honor for Phil Kofer. And, of course, as you mentioned, Adrian, the head coach of the Florida State Seminoles is Leonard Hamilton. He has won 289 now with the victory over Florida in his time here at Florida State. Looking to make a repeat trip back to the NCAA tournament after going to the round of 32 a season ago. perhaps Seminole fans weren't necessarily expecting something like this out of their team this year, but they will gladly take it. And again, we mentioned G.G. Smith in his 5th season with Loyola, getting set for the tip. You mentioned about the size and the rim protectors. This is a Florida State team that is doing without Chris Kumanji, who's got that stress fracture in his foot. Instead, it's Obiagu, the freshman, who's in there to tip it away, and it's Florida State with the opening possession.
Florida State has got a sizable advantage inside, and again, you can see right from the jump going right inside, and that's what they're going to have to do early on against this Loyola team. I mean, there's a noticeable difference in the post. Their biggest guy is 6'8", and I think Florida State's got to really work that ball inside early on like what they just did.
Worked it right inside to the freshman, Obiagu. And Obiagu, the 7-footer, gets Florida State on the board first. Here's Gregory, has it stripped on his way through and knocked out of play.
You can see on that first possession right there that one of the things Loyola is going to try to do is put Florida State's big in isolation situations. With them having really a small lineup, having everybody 1 through 5 who can put it on the floor, they're going to try to stretch. They're going to try to stretch the centers out, the 5 men out, and try to beat them off the deck. But great job, great recovery that time for the Seminoles.
It's Isaiah Hart set to send the ball in, and it took almost those full 5 seconds to get it in to Chuck Champion, who's playing just his 3rd game coming off of a foot injury. Champion, one of many Greyhounds that is injured this year.
Yeah, this Greyhound team has had, they had 4 beaten before the game kind of decision, game time decisions if guys are going to play or not.
That ball knocked out of play off the leg of Brent Holcomb, the freshman forward out of Miami. It'll be Florida State picking up possession. Braian Angola has spent plenty of time in part of the boom squad, now getting the start once again and getting himself on the board.
One of the things that Florida State has really worked on is the level of their ball screens that they have been setting. Early on in the year, they were setting their ball screens a little too high, and now they're setting them a little bit lower. Did a great job.
Another Loyola turnover and a healthy round of applause. You might have seen the visor crossing midcourt. That is Willie Taggart, the new Florida State Seminoles head football coach. We will be catching up with him. I believe our 3rd member of our team, Ari Masudi, will be asking him a few questions on his first full day in Tallahassee as the new head man of the Seminole football team. But right now it's all basketball as Phil Koper tries to knock down the long 2 and comes up empty. Isaiah Hart trying to go coast to coast, lays it up and in. Isaiah Hart gets the Greyhounds on the board. Angola beats champion. Angola responds with a layup of his own. C.J. Walker has really improved on defense. Up ahead and broken up by Holcomb. Great defensive play there by that freshman forward. Now the Greyhounds look to run. It's knocked away, but it will remain with the Greyhounds.
One of the things that I'm loving seeing this year so far for the Florida State Seminoles is between Phil Kofer and C.J. Walker. I kind of call them my all-street fight team. They're the guys that, if you're in a street fight, those are the 2 guys you want with you. These guys are rough and tough, and they bring that heart and soul. And again, when they played Florida the other night, it was just a flat-out, it was just a, they came out there and wanted to win that basketball game, and they were much tougher than Florida was the other night.
C.J. Walker picked up 24 against Rutgers, 17 more against Florida. Now here's Terrence Mann coming back the other way to Walker. And Walker looks to penetrate into the paint and goes up and is bumped by Hart.
One thing that Florida State has, again, doing a greater job, and they have to continue to do this, is get downhill on those ball screens and then transition. And that time we saw it earlier from Angola Rolis off the ball screen getting into the paint. And again, that time from C.J. Walker. Florida State is incredibly effective is when they're getting paint touches. They want to get that ball inside to the paint because it can lead to lobs, it can lead to kickouts, and especially with them shooting about 35%, they've been shooting the ball well from the field. And so it's a good early sign for Florida State.
And a good early sign from C.J. Walker from the charity stripe. He's shooting 81% so far from the free throw line as the sophomore out of Indianapolis, Indiana. Walker originally committed to Purdue, then decommitted, reopened it, caught the eye of Coach Gates when he was playing some high school ball. He played behind Trey Lyles, who's now playing in the NBA. And as you mentioned, he's got that street fighter kind of mentality. And there he is trying to come away with the steal right there from James Fives. Little press from the Seminoles. Now here's Gregory. Gregory drives and scores.
Nice crafty move that time by Gregory. Again, Gregory's going to be one of those guys going to be a first team, I believe, all Patriot League. Again, a little undersized and big in the ACC, but super effective when it comes to Patriot League.
Obiagu picks up another bucket. Obiagu, who scored as many as 5 points this season, already has 4.
I've been so impressed so far with Obiagu this entire year. I mean, as a freshman coming in, and again, was going to be playing kind of limited backup minutes, but again, with Chris Kamaji being hurt, he's had to come in and get great minutes. This is going to help the Seminole team later on. But again, another big-time block by him as well.
I was just about to say, that's been the side where he's really been effective. He picked up 5 blocks against Rutgers and already has one right here.
That time on the post-up situation, again, that's one of those freshman mistakes where he's got to keep the guy sealed on his back, allow him to fight low side on him and then get around and get a steal. But again, we're seeing some positive things from this freshman.
Hart sends it inside and off the mark. Angola swings it to Walker for 3. Yes!
One of the things that Florida State is trying to do is they are trying to get close to 300 passes a game. Within the context of a game, again, that's usually what a really good NBA team does, about 300-plus passes, and that's what this Florida State's team is trying to do. And that's a good extra pass that time by Angola.
Hart not passing there, keeping it himself. Walker got his hand in there, nearly knocked it away a couple of times, and a real gutsy effort from Hart to try to quiet the crowd a little bit after the Seminoles pick up their first 3. Bill Koper along 2, got him.
Right now, I know it's early in the season, but I would tell you, Phil Kofer has got to be one of the guys who's in a conversation. If he continues to play at this level, to be most improved, one of the most improved guys in America. I mean, he has just improved tremendously.
Coming up with the steal, going up for him. There it goes. Bill Kofer doing work on both sides. Little payoff for the steal for Bill Kofer. Florida State leads 17-6.
I think this Florida State basketball team's come in trying to give a little bit of excitement for Coach Willie Taggart. Let him know what to be expected here in Tallahassee.
Man 3, no. Hart with the rebound. Hart looking up ahead to Champion. Champion, nice feed. There's a couple. Holcomb.
One of the things talking to Coach Stan Jones before the broadcast was that they had concern with this team be able to come out with energy and effort after a big emotional win. And what you can see, they started off well early on. But what's starting to happen is you watch these guys are backing down the floor, not pushing the ball up. So, again, hopefully they're going to try to get to this media timeout as soon as possible and get some of these guys a blow.
How about Isaiah Hart, a 38% shooter from the floor, 27 from 3. He's been all Loyola's had here with few exceptions. It's Florida State 17-10. And how about the fireworks? Koper throwing it down, and the Seminoles lead by 7. Welcome back to Tallahassee. Florida State off to a hot start, up 17-10 over Loyola, led by Isaiah Hart, who has single-handedly kept his team in it. He's 3 for 4 today, but Bill Kofer, Ike Obiagu getting on the board early. Braian Angola 2 for 2. Adrian, if you might have been afraid that Florida State could be caught napping early on against a Loyola team that has gone on the road and nearly beat a 19th-ranked Northwestern team, so far not the case.
Now, this Florida State team started off super hot, and again, when you come off an emotional win against a rival, you always worry about fatigue. You worry about is this team going to be mentally locked in to participate in the Florida State way, but so far seeming like they are locked in, ready to go. And again, it's a good sign early on for this team. It shows the leadership. It shows the preparation from this coaching staff.
Deondu Kamangali coming down with a big board. MJ Walker, 3 more.
Again, MJ Walker is just starting to find his rhythm even more as this in his early on in his career here at Florida State. Again, a guy who was a high volume scorer in high school, and he's continuing that right now in the Garden and Gold.
From Walker to Walker, this is Andre Walker out of Westbury, New York.
One thing Loyola likes to do, they like to run a lot of drag screens. Again, for the top of the key, they run double drags. setting those screens high off the top of the key. And again, they're looking to try to turn that corner. And they're trying to get touches inside to the bigs.
How about that effort out of Luke Johnson? Johnson also out of New York.
Again, here we go with Loyola now jumping into a little matchup 2-3 zone this time. Again, when you're playing a team as athletic and as big and as long as Florida State is, it's going to be difficult at times to play man-to-man the entire game. So you got to constantly keep them on their heels. And again, Loyola jumping to this 2-3 zone caused a little bit of trouble so far for the Seminoles.
Little reach underneath. Andre Walker called for the foul. It'll be the second for the Greyhounds. Young lineup for Florida State. It's Wyatt Wilkes receives the inbounds pass, and now here's MJ Walker. And Wilkes called for the travel.
One of the things Florida State has to continue to do, even when they're stepping out playing against this zone, is they've got to keep that ball movement. And again, the game plan from the beginning is getting paint touches. Many times against zone, that's what teams end up doing. They end up throwing the ball around the perimeter. But Florida State's, again, got to use shot fakes, pass fakes. Again, drive that ball to get paint touches, again, to break this defense down.
Walker using the screen but can't connect, and it's Allen who comes away with the rebound. And it's knocked away by Walker out of play. It'll remain Florida State basketball. High screen there from Allen, and Johnson bumps Forrest.
Fouls like that would drive a coaching staff nuts. Yeah. Getting a foul almost, again, 28 feet away from the basket. And again,
it'll drive a team nuts because they don't have that many healthy players on the roster. We'll be back to Tallahassee in a moment. Back here in Tallahassee, Florida State with an 8-point lead over the Greyhounds. 11:58 left to play here in the opening half of the Donald L. Tucker Center. Sean Davidson alongside Adrian Crawford, Ari Masudi, our entire ACC Network extra team. Seminoles shooting 66% from the floor, but defensively allowing the Greyhounds to shoot about 50%. A lot of that in transition, getting back on D. It's been Hart who's been able to push the pace and get Florida State. Allen firing away and short. And here comes Hart back the other way. Walker, 3-ball, off the mark. It's a pretty flat arc there on that 3-ball.
That was, again, a little bit deep that time. He's about 23, 24 feet outside the lane again. Guys making shots consistently out there getting paid a lot more money than these guys are.
Great crowd on hand to welcome Willie Taggart, to congratulate these Seminoles as Wilkes fires away and is off the mark. Great effort there from Angola. He sets up MJ Walker, and MJ Walker with the air ball. It'll come back the other way with the Greyhounds.
One of the things that Florida State is doing is settling to what Loyola wants them to do, which is just sit outside and just, again, continue to fire up threes. Again, the last 4 possessions have been 3-point shots. And again, Florida State has just been settling with those threes.
Good ball movement. Brandon Allen, the beneficiary. Allen with his first 3-ball of the season.
Again, Brandon Allen's a guy who Florida State really needs to get some positive minutes out of, because, again, this year as it goes on, they're going to need to be able to go 10 or 11 deep as they're playing.
Again, Seminoles got deep, getting back on D. Reach in there, and Wyatt Wilkes draws the foul. Longendorfer, I believe, was the guilty party there on the reach. Some fresh substitutions for both schools. And above all the excitement about the basketball team and the new football coach, I'm hearing there's also dollar hot dogs for students. CJ Walker, sign him up. He can get whatever he wants as long as he keeps making them threes.
Dollar hot dogs tonight? I didn't know that, man. Hey, if you're listening to the broadcast, you need to go. There's still plenty of time to get here over to the Tucker Center tonight.
Exactly, especially you got that student ID. I mean, I've got one, but it's a little old. I don't know if they'll take it.
Man, I don't even know where my student ID. I just remember my student ID had a gold chain on, looking like Snoop Dogg. So
okay,
I don't know if I can use that as a.
Well, if you feel like your 20-year-old self inside, that's all that matters, I believe, right?
Man, I'm almost 40 years old, but I heard 40 is a new 30, so I'm just going to roll with that.
Exactly. Kofer, baseline 2, and 1.
What is amazing about Phil Kofer is that last year there was no way, again, from a health standpoint, but also a skill standpoint, for him to be able to do that. I'm watching what Phil Kofer did. He just adds such a new dynamic to this Florida State basketball team. I mean, really developed himself into a true stretch four-man, which, again, watching him in that Rutgers game, watching him in that Florida game, he just causes nightmare matchups for other people, and he is just such a tough competitor. I mean, every time you go against Phil Kofer, you better bring your work boots because he's bringing his.
Walker on Walker. Andre drives, gets it to Gregory. Gregory lays it up, can't get it to go. Angola coming back the other way, setting up CJ Walker. Pull up 3, off the mark. Foul called against Obiagu, I believe. It'll remain Greyhound basketball over the back of Holcomb.
Again, that's one of those fouls as a coach will make you get gray hair, pull your hair out, getting a foul, 93 feet away from the basket. Again, these are valuable minutes for Obiagu this upcoming season. Once they get Kamaji back, and now, again, when you get later into the ACC season, you've got another freshman big who's got great minutes so far in the year. And so once he gets to that ACC play, it will not be a shock to him to be in there. The speed of the game, the pace of the game, this is going to be really a blessing in disguise with Kamaji getting injured, so Obiagu getting the minutes that he's getting. And
it's going to be a tough start to ACC play for this team for the second consecutive year. They're starting against the very best of the Atlantic Coast Conference. They go to Cameron Indoor. They pick up a home matchup against North Carolina. They've got Miami, they've got Syracuse, they've got Louisville in that early stretch. So a who's who of opponents in the ACC for Florida State, as Kofer a little too strong with the lay-in attempt. And now here comes the Greyhounds trying to go back the other way. It's Andre Walker. Walker with the push-off. Offensive foul.
Great job that time by C.J. Walker. With that schedule, Florida State's got an ACC for 2 years in a row. I'm starting to think that somebody in the ACC front office, I don't know if they don't like the Seminoles or what, but we have started with a gauntlet every single year. But again, it ends up being good because you start off, and again, last year, that gauntlet, people didn't know how we would be able to handle it, but ran through it and did an incredible job. And I think the way this team's playing, the great thing is they're prepared for it because a lot of these guys faced that same type of gauntlet a year ago.
Seminoles look to be battle-tested once they get through that early stretch of ACC play, especially lead by 15 here over the Greyhounds of Loyola. The team with the Patriot League, I was talking with their SID earlier. He said, look, we know the deal. The Patriot League is probably only going to be a conference champion only kind of league to get into the NCAA tournament. All of this is a great tune-up. Speaking of up, C.J. Walker going up for Terrence Mann. A little disconnect, but I believe it will remain Florida State basketball off the hands of a Greyhound. But this is a team that, speaking of taking your licks early, whether it be through injuries or just trying to get their best 7 players healthy at the same time, if they can get them healthy by the time conference play starts and they get some of these younger guys some experience against teams like a Florida State, there's no telling where we might see Loyola, maybe even in the tournament field in March.
Yeah, talking to assistant coach Trevor Quinn, and Trevor Quinn is a guy who comes from the Leonard Hamilton coaching tree, was here from 05, 06, and I believe 07. He said that if this team had all his guys healthy, he would think they would be 4-3 this upcoming year. And so, again, this team is going to be, once they get in the Patriot League, I think they're going to be kind of a middle of the pack team, or a team that can make a run to that top 3 spots in the Patriot League.
Chuck Champion going back the other way, lays it up, but draws the foul. Can't quite get it to go, so he'll go to the line to see if he can make it 29-16 Florida State. But this is a Florida State team, Adrian, that, you know, you look at the rest of their non-conference matchups. You've got Charleston Southern, who plays the big schools pretty darn well. They've beat Ole Miss in the past. You've got Oklahoma State, a decent school out in the Big 12 that we've seen factor in the Big 12 race in recent seasons. But aside from that, there's a realistic chance that Florida State could finish non-conference play now undefeated and have an undefeated matchup against #1 Duke at Cameron Indoor. A big resume builder on the line there for Florida State, but you got to take it one game at a time. Well, we will take it 1 minute at a time and one member of the team at a time. Let's send it over to Ari Masidi, who's standing by with Willie Taggart.
Sean, thank you so much. I'm here with the new head coach of Florida State football, Willie Taggart. Coach, what's the last 24 hours been like for you?
It's been a whirlwind. You know, once we decided we were going to do this, it was all go from there, and had to tell our team, tell everyone back there, tell my family, and then it was on the plane overnight getting here, and then up this morning, met the players, had a press conference, watched recruiting film, and getting ready to go do a home visit.
What made Florida State the right fit right now for you to make that move from Oregon?
Well, it was kind of like the best of both worlds for me, where you can get in a place where you have a chance to win a national championship. You can get in a place where it's close to home and your family can get to share it with you. And it's been a dream of mine as a coach here. So it was all the right timing for me. It wasn't necessarily the right timing for everything else, but it was right for me, and really excited.
Today in the press conference, you mentioned a moment where you had with your son, and he told you to chase your dreams. Talk about that moment with him and what that meant.
I was everything. I really think that's what made me decide to do it, because I was really struggling with it. I only been at Oregon for 1 year, and they had done everything for me. The players, administration, did everything to help us be successful. So really didn't want to leave on that note. But when my son said that, and it came from him unexpectedly, and knowing that he really didn't want to leave, it said it all for me, and it kind of made me eat my own words that I told him. So it was big time, but it was a proud moment for a father to have your son come and talk to you that way.
With the new December recruiting period, how does that make this a challenge for you now to go from one school to another and not have the whole year to recruit? What do you got to do now?
Well, you got to get on the phone and try to start building some relationship and sharing your vision and what you're going to do with the program, and seeing if the guys want to be a part of that. But from my experience, a lot of kids go to the school because of the school, you know. Now the coaches have something to do with it, but a lot of it because of the school, and they grew up and joining, and I know that's one of the cases here at FSU.
And then my last question for you is, what are some of your immediate goals for Florida State in the short term?
Win. Win. Win, win, win.
I like it. Short and sweet, and congratulations on the new job at Florida State, Coach.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you very much, Aria. Many congratulations, Coach Taggart. He mentioned 5 wins there. That's about 3 shy of what Florida State's basketball team is trying to pick up here tonight on the season. They're trying to win here to start 2017.
As a Florida State alum and a guy who really loves this Florida State community and built a home here, it's exciting to hear Coach Taggart, to hear his vision. I mean, again, a guy with just a class act. Watching his press conference today, I mean, again, as somebody who has a young son who's coming up, who's into sports and plays sports, he's the type of guy you want your kids to play for. A guy who seems family first, guy's about character, about having fun, but more than anything else, and as he said, but he's competitive and he wants to win games, and so I think he's going to bring a new brain and new excitement to continue to build on the great legacy that's been here at Florida State.
And to talk about the football team for just a second, this is a guy that's turned around a Western Kentucky program, a USF program, went out to Oregon, who only won 4 games last year, turned them into a 7-5 team. They had some signs of promise out there in Eugene, and now he comes to a Florida State program where you could probably say for the first time in his history as a D1 coach, although it's not a very long history as a D1 head coach, he's got a turnkey program, or at the very least you could say the cupboard's not exactly bare here in Tallahassee. He's got some guys that he can work with, and he's got some weapons that he can use.
I mean, that's the thing. He's coming into a loaded Florida State football team, and I think that's going to be exciting. I mean, I expect big things this upcoming year for this Florida State football team. And then And I think so. And I think in the future, I think it's going to be someone, again, what you love is a guy who's saying he wanted to be here. And there's something that's said to that. And there's something that goes a long way when you have a guy who wants to be at this school. And I think Coach Taggart, he puts the staff together well, that they're going to have a lot of success here in the years to come.
Willie Taggart mentioning in his press conference today that when he grew up in a household where if you did not root for Florida State, you were not welcome.
Man, I mean, and I heard the press conference, his own brother showed up to his game against USF in
Yes.
Florida State gear. I mean, respect for his brother. I mean, he bleeds garden and gold, you know what I mean?
Hey, I mean, now he doesn't have to root against his brother. His brother made the trip over here to Tallahassee. He's got what he called was his dream job, and this has been a dream start to the season for Florida State. We'll see if the Seminoles can continue it on the hard court. Good defensive effort from Angola and forced double-teaming Champion, forcing the Greyhounds to call the timeout, but another offensive foul called. This time it's against Champion.
Again, great job, great cover up that time by Trent Forrest. And one of the things that I'm seeing early on from this Florida State team that they have to continue the things, the tweaks where you have to tighten up as the year goes on is that first line of resistance. You want to have great ball pressure, but you got to be able to stop those straight line drives. And again, Florida State in games like this, those are the little things they need to work on, because when you play teams as talented as Duke, when they will play them on the 30th, things like that will be exposed. And so again, today is really important for Florida State to really work on what Florida State does well.
Undefeated comes up short. And now it's Gregory coming back the other way to Champion. Champion, a little stutter step. Champion penetrates and finishes.
Big time shot right there by Champion. Again, third game back off an injury. Again, these guards are playing well right now. And again, you see this Loyola team right back in the 2-3 zone that honestly has caused Florida State some problems and troubles early on.
Nice feed inside the man.
Great pass that time by Trent Forrest. Again, paint touches, getting the ball inside. Again, when Trent Forrest, and we've talked about this so many times, when he's on the floor, there's just a different level that happens. That ball gets moving. The ball doesn't get stuck in the hands. And again, I think Trent Forrest is a guy, again, he's finally getting himself back healthy after that knee sprain early in the year.
Forrest shooting about 52% from the floor whenever he does decide to shoot. Little struggle there for the rebound. It'll remain Greyhound basketball. But in talking with Leonard Hamilton a few weeks ago, he said that was going to be the telltale sign for Trent Forrest. That would be the hardest part coming off of that bone bruise, was getting that burst back, getting himself back going on offense.
Yeah. Trent Forrest, again, spent a lot of time this past summer with Coach Stan Jones, working on his shot, correcting his form. And again, he's done a good job. But one thing about correcting your form, working on the summer, it does not it's something about when you're taking those shots when those bright lights are on. And so I think it's really important for Trent to make sure he is taking good shots and good looks, because again, all the hard work, then he has to begin to put them into play right here in live game action.
Air ball from the Greyhounds. It's Holcomb misfiring. Now the other 23, MJ Walker makes it from the wing.
One thing that I love about MJ Walker shooting the basketball, when MJ Walker's making a shot, he has great balance, straight up, straight down when he's shooting the basketball. Again, up and down when he's shooting it. And again, he's going to be a guy who I think has the type of talent when we get into the ACC where you'll begin to see him emerge even more.
A little sloppy basketball there, some sloppy passing on both sides. A couple of quick turnovers. Now it's back to the Greyhounds and Hart.
Again, Isaiah Hart coming off 26 points the other night, and again, tough guard. One guy that Coach Stan Jones, again, who had the scout tonight, talked about is that this guy can really get to the basket, can get to the rim, and Florida State had to be ready to stop that.
Speaking of getting to the rim, Trent Forrest got to the rim and won. And Florida State looking to nearly double up Loyola once again. It'll be Forrest trying to make it 39-20 Seminoles at the line.
Again, that time, big time take by Trent Forrest. One thing that Florida State has done an incredible job of this year is after made basketball by the other team, they don't wait. They get that ball out. The other night against Florida, they probably got 4 or 6 points just on not waiting, not sulking, not being upset with the made basket, but getting it out and going down the other end of the floor. And again, that was telltale right there by Trent Forrest.
Forrest does connect on the end one. It'll be 39-20 Florida State. Longendorfer gets it in, and now it's Andre Walker.
Sean, I'm going to ask you, what do you think is different this year with this Florida State basketball team? Again, and last year watching them play compared to, again, a very talented team, What do you think is the difference this year?
You know, to me, I think the thing that jumps out to me is the fact that I think last year, if it wasn't P.J. Savoy or later in the season Braian Angola, you didn't know who the threat was from beyond the arc. You know, you had a few guys that could shoot it. But at the same time, you know, you attach that sharpshooter label to P.J. Savoy. Now you got any number of guys who can knock it down from three. They make somewhere in the neighborhood of about 8 per game, as Loyola will go to the line to shoot a couple. But now you spread that floor out, you open up those underneath running lanes, and now with the size that Florida State has, you can take even better advantage of that.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you in that. This team, again, they're shooting the ball better. They got guys who can become threats. Again, though they're only shooting 35%, it's one of those things, though, they get going. It's not just one or two guys. You can have, again, Trent Forrest and the crew was shooting. MJ Walker can shoot it. Angola Rodas can shoot it. The fact that Phil Kofer, I mean, in that Rutgers game, Phil Kofer made, 4 big-time three-point shots. And again, last year there was no chance of that happening. And so I totally agree with you with that. This year's team, again, better shooting basketball team. And I think overall just they seem to have a lot of fun playing together.
They have a lot of fun playing together. And, look at that. Braian Angola penetrating and picking up a couple. There's something about this team, too, especially going back to just a couple days ago. Defensively, it really seems like that junkyard defense, or that junkyard dog defense, rather, is back for the Seminoles.
The other thing, watching the game the other night, it was one of those, we used to talk about this playing, is that it's just one of those street fights that you walk into, and it's going to be the first one to punch you in the face, and then who's going to back down. And Florida State just walked in to the O'Connell Center, punched him in the face, and just kept punching him. And again, came out of me. It was just one of those things. I'm sitting there watching the game, and what I was more impressed with this Florida State basketball team is just their ability to just continue to just be tough and tough and tough. And again, it's they take the reflection of their coach, and again, Coach Hamilton.
So an impressive start for Florida State. They're up 41-23 right here. Back here in Tallahassee, it's Florida State with a 41-23 lead over Loyola, with 3:53 left to play before the half. Plenty of Seminole fans in the house. Cooler weather in the area. You might as well come on inside and watch your basketball team coming off that win against the top 5 Florida team on the road. It's Florida State basketball, and I believe they're going to retain possession here as Reed checks in for the first time this season and quickly picks up a personal foul. Phil Kofer, 72% from the line, and makes the first.
Again, currently on the year, this Florida State basketball team, I believe, shooting a little bit over around 65, 70%, about 65% this upcoming year. And again, this Florida State team, that's got to be something they got to continue to improve on. You normally want to be around that 80% range as a basketball club, and especially going into ACC play, getting to the NCAA tournament time. Again, my coach used to always say down the end of the game, it's all about rebound and making free throws. Last night, watching even the Texas VCU game, almost watched Texas give a game away because of being able to go down the stretch and just constantly missing free throws. So again, it's something super important for Florida State, again, in games like this, to begin to create good habits.
Another offensive foul called against the Greyhounds.
What's exciting that time is watching a freshman, C.J. Walker, step in there and take a charge. And again, I think when you're seeing C.J. Walker, you're seeing Trent Forrest, other veterans do that again, it engages and energizes these young guys, sets the example for these young guys to understand what it means, really the Florida State way defensively. And so again, these are all positive things that this team has to do and continue to build as they are moving forward and create these good habits.
Langendorfer picking up the offensive foul. MJ Walker tried to lay it in. It'll be knocked out of play. It will be Greyhound basketball. We talk about guys losing some hairline there. I bet that homecoming for Shaka Smart reduced the hairline a solid inch or so.
Hey, Shaka Smart keeps it low. He keeps the hair. He keeps it real low.
One of those things you might not necessarily notice the recession of the hairline there for Shaka Smart. But boy, that's a guy that a lot of Longhorn fans are excited to see and have in their stable, and we're going to get a chance to see what he can really do moving forward with some of his guys down there in Austin. Langendorfer in and out. Wyatt Wilkes coming back the other way. Wilkes with the dish to C.J. Walker. Walker fires away and short.
One thing this Florida State coaching staff is really impressed with is the ability of Wyatt Wilkes to pass the basketball. Again, known as a guy in high school who can shoot, really shoot the ball, shoot the three, but really an elite level passer. And again, one of the things I think that as the Florida State team is going as a year, these are very valuable minutes for these young guys because, again, they're going to need anywhere between 10, 11, 12 guys as the year goes on. And again, this is big-time moments and big-time minutes for this freshman.
Beyondu Kabangali checks out, and Ike Obiagu checks in his place. And with less than 3 minutes to go, Loyola will try to chip into this FSU lead. It's back down to 20. Now Andre Walker has it knocked out of play by MJ Walker. So G.G. Smith again, the son of Tubby Smith. Spent a long part of his career up there at Minnesota, now at Texas Tech. I believe he's since left Texas Tech and gone to Memphis, right? Or Tulsa?
He absolutely is, yes. My father being a coach for 30 years, again, one of the first coaches I had the opportunity to meet and really build a relationship with when I was a young kid was actually his father. Tubby Smith, one of the great guys in the game of basketball. Legend in the game of basketball, will be a Hall of Famer in the future. And again, Gigi comes from an incredible coaching line.
Seminoles and Greyhounds turning up the tempo. Not a lot of offense to show for it. C.J. Walker tries to come back the other way. Reed with a great defensive effort. He picked up the steal earlier. Now it's Andre Walker coming back the other way. Walker just short, gets it back. Or rather, Champion finishes it up. And boy, that was a frantic couple of minutes there. But now the lead is cut even further. It's 43-27. A little run here for the Greyhounds.
Again, what I'm loving about this Greyhound basketball team, even though, again, this lead's been between 15 and 19 in the last 7 or 8 minutes, is that they're still fighting, they're still competing. Defensively, they're competing, giving Florida State some nice different looks.
Tell you what, that was a pretty nice look there for Trent Forrest.
Again, so far, Trent Forrest with 5 points. And one of the things that you don't see sometimes in the stat book that Trent Forrest does is Trent Forrest is a guy they usually on the perimeter put on their the tougher offensive assignment. He's a guy that covers up a lot on the defensive end of the floor. He's just one of those guys, one of those quiet leaders that you want to have, you want to need. He's the type of guy, he just always has been a winner from the time he was a kid to the time, again, winning the EYBL. On the Nike basketball circuit to state championships in high school. The guy's just a winner. And again, because he has the right habits and he's just the type of guy who will do whatever it takes for his team to win basketball games.
They got MJ Walker there on the reach-in, so it'll remain Greyhound basketball. It's the 6th foul for Florida State as a team. Just over a minute to play, now under a minute to play. Loyola has cut the lead down to 16. Seminoles re-extended to 18. Now it's back down to 16 once again. Seminoles have led after every half so far this season. They'll call Champion for the foul underneath. So a couple of free throws will be upcoming for Ike Obiagu. Willie Taggart chance in the air. And Taggart responds with a tomahawk chop. Obiagu, just a 20% free throw shooter. It's tricky to get these big 7-footers who have that height to get that arc on their free throw motion. They've got him with a one-handed free throw attempt here. As you see, he sort of levitates that left. But so far, there you go, there's number 4. Got to start somewhere.
One of the things with these guys is the fact that hand size, again, hand size matters. I mean, those basketballs, to us, they seem really big with a guy like that. seems like a miniature basketball. But again, one of the things that they've been working with him on, taking his guy hand away, is because what he was doing, shooting it, he was what they were calling thumbing the basketball, getting side spin on the basketball. And one thing you don't want to do is thumb the basketball. So again, taking that guide hand off, because really that's what it is. It's a guide. It's like, and sometimes if you see a lot of young players that they end up shooting it kind of with two hands, using that thumb to get a more of a motion and push. But again, really all the motion comes from that strong dominant hand. And so they're just really working with trying to eliminate that.
Wilkes has it stripped, lead down to 15. Champion off the mark. 46-31 Florida State here at the half. A good offensive start for Florida State, but they've cooled down of late here in Tallahassee. And I'll tell you what, Adrian, if you find a coach in this building, Ari Masudi will find him, and I know he is tracking down Leonard Hamilton right now. Ari is standing by with the head coach.
All right, here with head coach Leonard Hamilton. And Leonard, you guys have had some success offensively, both outside and inside, but mainly attacking the basket. Was that kind of the plan coming in?
Well, right now, you know, we have a lot of issues. We're not executing very well right now. I think that emotionally maybe we might be a little spent, but this is a good, this team's playing very hard. They're creating some challenges for us with their quickness and their speed. We're not protecting the paint very well, and we normally do a pretty good job of that. I think we'll be much better come out the second half.
What do you want to see defensively coming out of the locker room?
Well, we got to continue to dribble a little bit better. They're beating us on the first dribble. I think we're doing much better. We'll make some adjustments at halftime.
All right, Coach, thank you. Sean, back to you.
All right, Aria, thank you so much. Again, the lead for Florida State is 15 at the half. Media congregating at midcourt. They're going to introduce Willie Taggart to the crowd. We're going to take a break and be back to Tallahassee in a moment. The war chant ringing in the air as Willie Taggart introduced to the crowd. Florida State leads 46-31 here in Tallahassee, Florida. And earlier this week, a reporter for Seminoles Sports Magazine caught up with Brandon Allen to talk about the Allen family history at Florida State University.
They say life's a journey. You get pushed, pulled, sent down rigorous paths that seem to have no clear direction. But in the end, many are led exactly where they are meant to be. For redshirt senior forward Brandon Allen, that seemed to be exactly the case when he walked onto the Florida State men's basketball team nearly 3 decades after his father starred for the Seminoles.
I've been a Florida State fan my whole life, and that's not even because of my dad. I mean, I can remember from a young age coming to football games and just falling in love with Florida State. It wasn't a hard choice on which school I wanted to go to.
Well, you know, he used to watch videos of me when I was playing here, and he's always been, of course, I've always been a Seminole, and his mom's a Seminole, and so it's automatic for him to become a Seminole.
This spring will be Brandon's final semester at FSU, and while the idea of graduating is bittersweet, it has allowed him to reflect on the journey that has brought him to where he is today.
It is kind of weird now that, like, the end, I can see the end. And because of that, I'm trying to cherish, like, every day.
While Brandon's journey won't end after he graduates from FSU, no matter where his future path may take him, just like his dad, his strides will forever be those of a Florida State Seminole. I'm Lauren Swertfeger for Seminole Sports Magazine.
Back here in Tallahassee, Florida State up by 15 over Loyola at the half at the Donald L. Tucker Center. Seminoles looking to go 8-0 on the season here at home off that win over number 5 Florida on the road in Gainesville. Things going well for the Seminoles so far offensively, but Loyola has had their chances as we take a look at the first half highlights. The Greyhounds have picked up 31 points thanks to the likes of Chuck Champion. Penetrating inside in transition has been Isaiah Hart, who's led the charge, and Luke Johnson getting the job done inside as well. The Seminoles have countered those efforts with the likes of C.J. Walker from the perimeter and have gotten in transition as well with Trent Forrest, and have also had that big fella, Phil Coper. Defensively, offensively, the resurgence continues, and Florida State will ride that wave with a 15-point lead in the locker room. We'll be back to Tallahassee with the second half at the Donald L. Tucker Center. Seminoles lead by 15. Back here in Tallahassee, final seconds before we get the second half underway at the Donald L. Tucker Center. The Seminoles with a 15-point lead. Sean Davidson here alongside a former Seminole and Adrian Crawford. And Adrian, Florida State's continuing to shoot pretty well. They're shooting about 55% from the floor. They're shooting about 30 or so percent from three. But this is a Florida State team that defensively, not exactly, I think, what Leonard Hamilton was looking for. They're giving up about 40% field goal shooting for Loyola, and a lot of that's in the paint.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that is Florida State's predicated on their defense is, again, as we heard Coach Hamilton before the break, is on that first drive, that first dribble penetration. They're giving a lot of easy first dribble drive penetration. And, again, Florida State in the second half, again, has to cover up. But what I would say a positive is the fact that Ike Obiagu has 3 blocks. Again, this is 3 games in a row with over 3 blocks that he's had. And so, again, the freshman is kind of covering up. But, again, when you start to take those steps in the ACC play, that's going to be things that hurt you. So I hope for the second half, Florida State really begins to kind of lock in on that first dribble drive penetration.
So Florida State has now, for the second consecutive week, or rather game, they have kept a team quiet from 3-point. That's another thing that jumped out at me. Loyola 0 for 6. Florida didn't have much more success than that. But again, Loyola shooting about 40% from the floor. Seminoles with a couple extra rebounds, a few more assists, a little bit more success from 3. But both teams shooting pretty well from the free throw line too. So when they've gone there, they've converted.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And again, Florida State, again, 9 for 10 from the free throw line, which is a positive thing for Florida State. Again, a team shooting, the subpar, a little bit under the 70% range. Again, 9 for 10 is good. And getting to the line 10 times. There's been times this year in the first half, they've only been able to shoot 6 free throws or 4 free throws. So getting there 10 times is a great job.
So in the comeback for Chuck Champion, a couple of guys who've been injured and on the comeback trail. Chuck Champion leading the way for Loyola, and Phil Kofer on the comeback season, rather, for Kofer. Now with 9 points, he's 3 for 5 tonight with a couple of rebounds and assists, a steal as well. Got the payoff with that alley-oop and the dunk. But Champion now, I mean, you can't underscore the fact that this is just his 3rd game back.
It's 3rd game back, and even if you watch him as the half went on, you saw him laboring a little bit on that ankle, but again, a gutsy performance. Again, you can see he's a guy that's going to be very critical, I think, in the second half, but also in the future for this Loyola basketball team. And again, Phil Kofer, 74 points his last 5 games, averaging almost close to 15 points a game. And again, if you would have told Leonard Hamilton and his staff that Phil Kofer would be close around that 14, 15-point a game mark this upcoming year, I think they would have said that we were absolutely insane and crazy. But Phil Kofer is playing incredible this year, and I think that's a pleasant surprise to the Florida State basketball team, and it bodes well for them heading into the future and again in the NCAA tournament.
So Phil Kofer continues to come back, and Florida State continues what many might have considered a surprising start to the season, trying to go 8-0 for the first time since 2008, 2009. The Seminoles have led after every first half this season. They've led after, of course, that means every half this season for them to be perfect on the season. The Seminoles will try to keep that perfect streak on the line against the Greyhounds, and the Greyhounds will try to chip into that lead of 15 points. It'll be Hart to get things going with Gregory.
You know, what I find amazing is the fact this upcoming year that, some publications had this Florida State basketball team finishing 12th in the ACC. And so, again, I think that goes to credit to, Coach Hamilton, his staff, but also these players. These players are playing with a chip on their shoulder right now. They're a team that says, listen, they knew they were better than being 12th in the ACC coming into it. And, again, they are playing, again, as one, like they did last year, as one of the upper echelon teams in the ACC. And, again, over the years, what's interesting I find with this Florida State team is that, nationally not getting the respect they deserve. I mean, again, this team has the 3rd most wins in the ACC, behind Duke and North Carolina. But it's still always like, they go into, they're going to have a drop. And I get it. You lost a 6th pick in the draft. You lost, Dwayne Bacon, 2nd pick in the draft. And you lost Xavier Red. Pam playing in the G League right now. You lost some good players. But again, Leonard Hamilton has always found a way to help his teams be successful. And so, again, it's just another year of him doing it.
Holcomb, 3-ball goes in and out. Mann drives and scores. Terrence Mann makes it 48-31. I know we've been working together now a couple of games, but it's a little odd for the telepathy thing to be going on here. That was the exact point I was going to mention. There's been some hard years here at Florida State.
Yeah.
It was 5 years before they had gone back to the tournament when they did last year. Little foul there against the Greyhounds, or rather against Obiagu, but here's the deal. I mean, despite those poor years for Florida State, and I'm not necessarily sure they were poor years. They're just not the years that you would expect to have here at Florida
I had
State.
when I played, we had some poor years. We had some dark years. So,
okay.
Yeah. So keep going.
Okay, go ahead. I can keep going. That's safe to say that. All right, fine. So you had those years that weren't exactly what you would have hoped for here at Florida State, but I think we lose sight of the fact, or at least a lot of people lose sight of the fact, while Angola just knocks down another three, that this is a Florida State team that, as you mentioned, from 2005 to now has the 3rd highest winning percentage of any ACC school, behind the likes of Duke and Carolina. So if you're going to be 3rd to a couple of schools, there you go.
Again, I think that it does go to that. But again, I think that over the years, this is what Leonard Hamilton has done. That he's just built great basketball teams and basketball clubs, and we're seeing it right down the floor this year.
They've built a 19-point lead back here in Tallahassee. Florida State up 19 over Loyola. Davison, Adrian Crawford, Aria Masudi, and a great crowd on hand as C.J. Walker picks the pocket of Hart. Up ahead, Angola. Angola!
Again, big time play that time by C.J. Walker. I mean, a guy who just defensively and just causes a lot of matchup problems. Again, one thing I'm loving this Florida State basketball team is doing this year is mixing up their defenses. Again, you saw against Florida. You saw against Florida that they came out. Again, they mixed it up. They went to zone. Again, Leonard Hamilton's known for being a straight man-to-man type of guy, but he's mixed his defense up. He's knowing that with these types of teams, the type of guys they have, they've got to switch it up. And again, even early on right now, they're doing a little run and jump. And so, again, cause a little bit of problems. But again, when you got a guy like a C.J. Walker who's low, small, tough, can get underneath those guards, he causes problems.
Angola with the feed into Kabangali. Kabangali the kick out to Walker. Little bump underneath.
Again, if you watch C.J. Walker that time, I mean, again, getting underneath the guy that's small, and again, big time play, big time dunk by Angola Rodas.
So Florida State now leading 53-34. Foul underneath called against Kabangali. The Seminoles tried to get a substitution in there, and now after a couple of seconds they'll get M.J. Walker. The refs finally picked up on him sitting over there at the scorer's table.
It's an interesting lineup that Coach Ham has in right now. I mean, you pretty much are going, I mean, defensively you can pretty much switch 1 through 5.
Yep.
Phil Kofor can guard. I mean, he can guard 1 through 5 on the floor. Terrence Mann can guard 1 through 5 on the floor. So, again, it's going to be really interesting. Again, I think in games like this, one of the things that I think Coach Ham wants to try to do is just try to play with and tinker with certain type of lineups because, again, they're going to have all different types of lineups when they jump into ACC play. Again, you may not go with this lineup against a Duke who, big inside with Wendell Carter, Marvin Bagley. But, again, when you play against a Clemson, you play against a Wake Forest, play against a Georgia Tech team, you may want to go with something like this. So, again, I love seeing these different types of lineups coming up.
Turnover there from Greyhounds. Hart just sending off his right heel. Little miscommunication, and now M.J. Walker tried to make the best of it and stripped Andre Walker. He knocks it out of play. It'll remain Greyhound basketball.
Actually, on that play right there, they were trying to run a little lob action for Terrence Mann, but I believe it was Walker did a great job. Actually, as Terrence Mann was cutting to the basket, actually chucked him kind of with a quick little elbow into the chest, slowed him down. Again, that disrupted that lob play.
Sean Davison here alongside former Seminole Adrian Crawford, Aria Masudi, who I'm telling you, Adrian, if you find a coach in the building, I think you'll have a chat with him on the air. He's 2 for 2 tonight so far.
Man, Chuck Champion, I mean, again, doing an incredible job playing, again, coming off that 3rd game. But really playing his 3rd game, I would say.
Terrence Mann falling away, can't get the roll. And a foul called underneath.
I think one thing this Loyola team is struggling with a little bit tonight is, again, their leading scorer, Cam Gregory, who's averaging close to 17 points a game, but just held to 2 points in the first half, but really only 2 shots and really only 2 rebounds. Again, that's one of the things that this Florida State basketball team, as you see night in, night out, they take pride in trying to stop the best player on the other team. They've done it so far with Cam Gregory.
The Greyhounds a little thin, as we've mentioned, with injuries and whatnot. And there's the first 3-ball. Langendorfer. A little thin due to injury, but I think the place where they really are missing somebody is they're missing Chancellor Bernard, and there's no telling when they'll get him back. And because of that, they've been really struggling at the 4 position, their SID has been telling me. So, you know, with all of that, you know, you can go with that smaller lineup for Florida State.
Yeah, and again, I think that this is a good time. Again, these are the type of games that when you get leads like this that you want to try to work on some things. But one of the things that I think that this Florida State basketball team has had to consistently keep getting better at is when they get leads. We've seen these in games like this. When they get leads, they mentally begin to check out. They mentally begin to have more turnovers. I mean, even in the first half, Florida State had 8 turnovers. And I'm like, oh, only with 7 turnovers. And throughout the year, and so far this year, again, Florida State has always has pretty much been under the turnover. They've actually have not won. The other team has won the turnover. Florida State's actually, I'm sorry, has won the turnover battle, but not this so far in this first half. But again, these Florida State Seminoles have to begin to just, again, the little things. The little things help teams win championships, and this is what they have to clearly work on.
C.J. Walker picking up the foul. Ian Langendorfer, once again, hustling on both ends of the court for the Greyhounds. And now here he goes. Langendorfer picks up a couple more.
Langendorfer, I don't know what happened at halftime. I don't know.
Yeah.
Remember last time, maybe we got some of that applesauce from Florida State again. And it seems like it's magic for the Florida State team, but man, he came out in this second half, and again, 5 quick baskets. Again, and got this Loyola team close back in.
Terrence Mann left all alone down there on the baseline. That was just too easy for the man who picked up his career high 25 against Florida. I will say this, though. If Langendorfer starts pulling a Braian Angola on us, Air Angola flows a whole lot better than Air Langendorfer. I'm just saying. Reed setting the screen for Champion. Champion on the drive. Can't get it to go. Man up ahead to Forrest. Forrest on the drive and is caught underneath. I believe that'll be River Reed called for the foul. So Florida State still only a 14-point lead. They have the ball and we come back to Tallahassee. Back here in Tallahassee, 15 minutes left to play in regulation. Florida State up 55-41. They've led by as many as 23, and they've been in control the entire afternoon. C.J. Walker, the Seminoles point man, draws contact from River Reed. That'll be the 3rd foul, I believe, for Loyola. Walker has made 16 of his last 19 free throws over the last 3 games. It's about 84%.
And that's one of the things that you want to see from your starting point guard is a guy who shoots a high clip from the free throw line. Because again, down the stretch, tight games, again, it's rebounding and it's free throws that determine those games that come down the stretch the last 4-5 minutes of a basketball game. And again, you always want to be able, the guy who's handling the ball the most, you want him to be one of your better free throw shooters. Because again, it kind of plays in your favor in both ways. A guy who can handle the ball against pressure, but also if he gets fouled, he can make free throws down the stretch. So again, C.J. Walker, again, has improved so much in this past year. And I think that's credit to these guys. I mean, you know, being around here, being in this community, being around this team, is that these guys put in so much extra work in the offseason. And you can see it right now. There's been noticeable improvements from these guys. Great pass.
Great pass inside. It did not fall, but it will be good for a couple of free throws.
Again, this Loyola team runs a lot of drag screens, but again, when they run these little dribble actions, sometimes they'll go dribble handoff, but on that dribble handoff, sometimes what they will do is that you're preparing for the dribble handoff and then they'll back cut you, and that's what they did that time. And again, Trent Forrest played good defense, did what he's supposed to do. They teach you that when someone back cuts you, you look down your arm, you turn, you flip your head, look down your arm. He did, but that was just a better pass by Gregory. And again, led to Andre Walker getting some free throws here.
Andre Walker, the senior guard out of Westbury, New York. Off the mark. Seminoles will look to come back the other way. Their lead stuck around that 15 number. Both teams shooting over 50% from the floor here in the second half so far. A little contact underneath as Kofor puts it up. Interesting that we've been talking about the injuries being the trend for Loyola and what has factored and loomed so large for them this year. This is the deepest team that they expected to have in the last 7 or 8 years. So, I mean, it's unbelievable how this has happened. There were 3 players, 3 starters that were injured in a 5-minute span at UMass Lowell.
Wow.
It started with Walker, who is now back playing. He was usually a starter. Now he's just coming off the bench, trying to make sure he's healthy. He suffered a hip contusion down in the paint. Sam Norton, a fractured ankle, and Costeca with a sprain. And this happened in a 5-minute span in regulation. And then they've, of course, already been out with Bernard, and they don't know when they're going to get him back. So, I mean, you're running through that depth that you thought you had, and you're learning a whole lot about your team early on in these non-conference matchups. But these are the kind of games and these are the kind of situations that'll make them all the better. And whoa!
Again, another big-time pass there, another big-time play. Again, with Florida State and the way that they play defensively, where they're going to get out, they're going to pressure you, they're going to deny. That leaves them liable if they are not in that help side defense, if not on what they call the middle floor, on the midline. You're going to be vulnerable to these backdoor cuts. Again, we saw this last year with Florida State when they started off the year doing really well, and then they go up to a Georgia Tech team who really exposed them because, again, we pressure, we push out. And so, again, we're going to have some struggles with teams like this. And but, again, that time, Florida State come right back. They made a big-time play that time by Trent Forrest to make that pass to Angola. But getting back to what you were saying about the injuries, I mean, it's a crazy thing about basketball. Again, my father was a head basketball coach at the University of Akron, and again, same kind of situation. Going into one of his deepest years, team was picked to finish top two or three in the conference that time. Had a few, again, first team all preseason, first team all players, and then pretty much in the warm up, probably his second best player breaks an ankle in the warm up on the layup line.
Jeez.
And then he has his second best player. There comes an altercation and ends up fracturing his forearm, and he's out for the entire year. So you go from a team top 2, top 3 to, and again, you end up 7th or 8th. But again, that's how basketball, again, sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. And again, unfortunately, Loyola's on the bad end of that.
Holcomb off the mark. A little deflection for Florida State. Kofor and the Seminoles trying to push the pace the other way. Good
Great
ball
pass.
movement. Forrest. Yes.
Again, that's a positive side. If we get Trent, if Florida State, if Trent Forrest is making shots this upcoming year, then that is going to be that bodes very well for this Florida State basketball team. That was a great extra pass by MJ Walker. Those are the type of things that coaches notice and watch, and those get you more minutes on the floor. And you're making those types of unselfish basketball plays. Again, there's been times where MJ Walker has had, where times maybe they haven't seen him in the corner, but again, that time instead of forcing a shot, again, he could have had a good shot, but he passed up a good shot for a great shot.
Now it's MJ Walker on the drive. Long 2, got it to go. So after Andre Walker says, I see your 3, I'll make another one. MJ Walker says, I see your 3, here's a long 2. Champion back the other way. Can he get the roll? No. Up ahead, man, almost got him. But a nice effort there from Andre Walker with the steal. 3 balls short. Now up ahead to Terrence Mann. Here we go with the up-tempo. Mann can't get it to go. Andre Walker, and it looks like the Greyhounds more than content to slow things down a little bit with over 12 minutes to go. Walker loses the handle, and now here's another turnover. Reed, great effort scooping it up, and Reed gets it back from Angola. River Reed will make his first trip to the free throw line this season.
Other night watching Florida State's going out there against the University of playing against Florida. One thing that Terrence Mann, I think he's one of the best in the country at, is when he is driving that basketball, is keeping that ball high. Again, you teach young players, you teach players that when they drive the basketball and you pick that ball up, you want to play above your chest. And Terrence Mann is, again, being a coach's kid, it is like clockwork for him, which allows him not to get stripped, allows him to go, extend to the basket, embrace contact. And again, I think it's what's made him super successful this upcoming year.
Terrence Mann's mom, of course, the head coach at the University of Rhode Island. So not only does he have Leonard Hamilton to answer to if he doesn't have his best of performances, he's got Mama that he's got to answer to too. And I'm not so sure that she'll give him all of the, I'm sure she gives him some of the love and care that he might need in those such moments, but I bet your Mama's tough too. C.J. Walker, plenty tough as well, and Walker drives, picks up the and one, and the Seminoles will try to extend their lead to 19 when we come back to the capital city of the Sunshine State. Seminoles are rolling and well on their way to 8-0. Back here in Tallahassee, you're looking at the student section, and there aren't a whole lot of empty seats. There's a little pocket here and a little pocket there, but it is coming up on finals week, Adrian, so this is an impressive showing from Florida State students. And I'll tell you what, if you're wanting to build a basketball culture on campus, try going to the NCAA tournament, getting off to a start like this, introducing a new football coach at a basketball game, offering $1 hot dogs. This is how you're going to get people into the stands with regularity. And boy, what a good product they have here at the Donald L. Tucker Center, both the men and the women.
Absolutely, and I think that one of the keys is this, that I think that, around the country that, again, that people may not understand is that when you start talking about, the rivalry that we have against the University of Florida, is that, again, it's always amazing when we go and we beat Florida, it's like all of a sudden everybody's like, oh yeah, our basketball team's pretty good this year. And so, again, I think that's part of it. And introducing a new football coach, $1 hot dog, but I also think beating your rival by 20 in their place is also something that will get the fans in the building.
River Reed had a hard time down there in the low post. And, again, the struggles continue for Reed, but you got to love that effort for Reed, coming off the bench and checking into a game for the first time this season, trying to be a bit of a spark plug for his team's offense. It's not quite paying off for him, but you got to like that effort.
Yeah, again, right now, team down 18 points. You need to get something to kind of get you going. And again, for a guy like River Reed, this is an opportunity with guys being hurt that you can get you an opportunity to get back into the game, to get into the, actually, if you get positive minutes, actually get into the lineup and to get to the rotation. So, again, all these games, all these moments really matter. And again, for this Loyola team, games like this, though they're 1-6, again, talking to, Coach Trevor Quinn before the game, that he thought, hey, if we're healthy, we're probably 4-3. Again, took a Northwestern team down to the wire. That was a NCAA tournament team last year, won a tournament game. And so this is a good basketball club, but it's really hard when you're playing games like this early on as a mid-major, a low major to a mid-major program, and having to play these types of games is keeping the confidence of your players throughout. Because it'll get easier once you get to the Patriot League, but you got to withstand coming in here and playing the likes of a team like Florida State.
This is Hart, the point guard, a guy who's got his freshman moments, but really is a terrific defender. And wow, Langendorfer picks up another triple.
Again, one of the things that this Loyola team had Florida State concern early on and before the game was really their dribble drive and getting the ball to the basket. They run a lot of that dribble drive motion that John Calipari, Kentucky, made famous. And again, did a good job. Great time that time by our own dribble drive by C.J. Walker, making a great pass to Braian Angola.
Angola now with 15. He's 6 of 7 from the floor today. Champion.
One thing I love about Braian Angola is he's a guy, he's just a silent, and that's, he just makes some really exciting plays, but again, he's super efficient as a player. Reminds me of a lot of like Leandro Barbosa, a guy who's just out there and he just is super effective defensively, and a guy who's getting around making shots.
Speaking of making shots, C.J. Walker makes another triple, and it's 74-52 Florida State. Seminoles knocking on the door of having their biggest lead so far tonight. Hart on the baseline drive picks up a couple more.
Florida State doing a great job of holding this Loyola team to 21% from the three-point line right now.
Oh boy, the three party is getting going here in Tallahassee here in the second half. And this is what we were talking about in the first half. There's any number of guys on this Florida State roster that can knock it down from beyond the arc. And there's a couple of threes from two different walkers even. And Florida State leads by 20. Even, and Florida State leads by 23.
Yep. And I think that what's happening right now with this Florida State team, again, this is what happens when they get heated up and get going. But again, if you watch right here, coming over with MJ Walker, again, shooting, great balance. I mean, if you watch great shooters, they have great balance. Everything in basketball starts at your feet. And again, he's straight up, he's straight down, landing in the same spot, sticking his landing, shooting the ball. And again, I think that's why he's shooting the ball at such an effective level and effective clip so far this year.
River Reed will shoot a couple more from the free throw line and try to chip into this 23-point lead for Florida State. But MJ Walker came into this week shooting 47% from beyond the arc, as Reed can't connect on the front end of the 1-and-1. Seminoles look to get back in transition. CJ Walker with the pull-up three. He's also 4 of 8 from beyond the arc in his last couple of games. Now adds another one. So MJ Walker really feeling it from beyond the arc. Hard on the drive with Reed on the screen. But they might catch Florida State here with a little reach.
Watching a lot of college basketball, I don't think there's a team in America that gets that ball out and up the floor as fast as Florida State does.
Hart will shoot the front end of the 1-and-1 and connects. Lead down to 21. Kabangali lays it in. Kabangali, a guy who's really been working hard this season. He's the nephew of Dikembe Mutombo, so there's some good basketball blood in that family.
Yeah, saying good genes, good genetics right there.
Hart step back two, off the mark. Tie up there, and it'll be Seminole basketball. Well, back to Kabangali. He's lost 20 pounds since Jamaica when the Seminoles made that trip down to Jamaica for the once in 4 years trip. He picked FSU over Wisconsin, Georgetown, Kansas State, Georgia, Boston College, redshirted last year. And there's a chance he could be a guy that we see. I guess Phil Kofer might have something to say about that, the most improvement from this season.
Yeah, definitely. I think, Kabangali, when he got in here, he was a guy who, again, body wasn't in the type of shape that he needed to be in.
Wow. It's not fair.
MJ Walker, and like I said, he doesn't have the athleticism, but he reminds me of another former Nole great, Malik Beasley, who's here in the guard and goal for 1 year. I mean, shoots the basketball. Again, shoot 47% from the three. And again, 4 freshmen coming in. And again, sometimes with freshmen, it takes them a minute to kind of get yourself kind of settled. And again, this freshman's going to be big. And I think he's the type of guy, the better the competition, the better he's going to play. And I think when the ACC season comes around, we're going to see some real, even better play than what he's doing even currently right now.
Holcomb with a monster block. Now he's tied up. Now Champion will try to come back the other way.
one thing that's really impressive about Champion, and I really like seeing him tonight, is he's a guy that's really under control. I mean, does a great job when he gets in the paint, coming to a jump stop. And again, good floaters, good finishes in there. And again, I can see him being a guy in the Patriot League. Again, they're right there. Big time floater. I mean, went deep in his bag that time for that floater. So again, great guy, great player. And again, he's trying to keep this Loyola team competitive in this game.
So Florida State leads 82-58. We'll head to another break in Tallahassee. An 82-58 lead for Florida State at the hat. Well, with 6:53 left to go in the second half. Sean Davidson, Adrian Crawford, third member of our team is Ari Masudi, and he's standing by with more on C.J. Walker.
All right, thanks, Sean. Well, it's been a coming of age for C.J. Walker of this Florida State basketball team. Last week, a 2-game road stretch for Florida State. They won both of those games against Rutgers and Florida. Walker dropped 24 at Rutgers, 17 against the Gators, and he's been the guy that's been taking the big shot for this Seminole basketball team. He told me it started in the offseason when the coaching staff approached him and told him that it was time for him to take more of a leadership role. I talked to Phil Kofer, who said CJ has that dog in him. Terrence Mann said we've all encouraged him to be that guy. CJ told me, I want to be that guy. I want to take those shots in big moments. Now, CJ is a guy who comes from the state of Indiana, where ball is life in that state. He's a guy who had offers from Butler, from Purdue. He had offers from Wichita State. In the end, he chose Florida State. He's got a 2-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. And on a team like Florida State, where Xavier Rattan-Mays left the team a year ago, C.J. Walker has filled in very nicely for these Noles as they make a push back to the NCAA tournament. Sean, Adrian, back to you guys.
Aria, thank you so much. Great report there on C.J. Walker, a guy who was part of that boom squad for Florida State that scored 40% of the team's points just a season ago. And now Trent Forrest trying to come back the other way and collect a steal. It'll roll out of play. We'll see how healthy Forrest is. Boy, that was some heck of an effort there. He's taking a little extra second to get back up.
Again, even if you watch that time, Trent Forrest, again, even the little things he was trying to do, most guys try to dive there, but he's trying to flick the ball ahead, again, and try to keep it in play to get and push that ball down. Again, tenacious play, and again, came up a little bit short, but great job by Trent.
Step back three Walker, brought down by one of a whole bunch of Walkers. Now up ahead to MJ Walker, just off the mark.
I think if MJ Walker would have made that, man, the roof would have came off the Tucker Center if he'd have made that one.
He's 4 of 5 now, 4 of 6 today. It's just not fair.
If he's playing NBA 2K, definitely would have the three-point icon badge right about now.
Hey, I'll tell you what. We were talking, I think you and I were talking, and I think Ari and I both found out you can earn a lot of respect in the locker room for how well you play some 2K now. Now, I've heard Phil Kofer, not only is he having a resurgence this year, but he also leads the pack on this roster in terms of 2K.
Let me tell you this, it is something, it is bragging rights in the locker room. And again, I think, you know, being able to, it is the same level of competitiveness you bring on this floor you bring to the 2K. I know Trent Forrest brags and talks all about how good he is in Madden. If you know, talking to Trent, you know, kind of off camera, you know, the guy would think that he was, you know, out there just the greatest. He's like Bill Belichick when it comes to Madden. I mean, my man's like got schemes, he's got playbooks, he's on YouTube, watching blitz packages. I mean, so again, that's part of being, you know, a basketball player, being an athlete. Man, you got to be a gamer.
Great pass. Unfortunate there that Trent Forrest couldn't pay off C.J. Walker. Hart coming back the other way, can't get it to go. I'll tell you what, our producer Jake says that he's pretty good at Madden. He thinks he can beat him. I think we should set that up.
Jake, I got my money 100% on Trent. 100% on Trent. I apologize.
I think we need to get Jake a mic as Terrence Mann follows back his own miss.
We absolutely do.
This should bring a few other people into this conversation. Because I'll tell you what, something that I will say, I was a little disappointed Ari didn't mention. I talked with C.J. Walker. I mean, he did a great job about all the statistics. C.J. Walker and Phil Kofer were mentioned as two of the best dancers on the team for their time in Jamaica. I finally had the chance to ask C.J., is that fake news? Is it real news? What's the deal with that? He said, oh, no, it's real news.
I know.
To which I think there might be a debate going on in that locker room now.
It would be. I think Terrence Mann would try to say those are alternative facts, probably.
Okay.
I think Terrence Mann would definitely say those are alternative facts.
86-63 Florida State. Meanwhile, there's basketball going on here at the Donald L. Tucker Center. Wyatt Wilkes is checked back in. And now Phil Kofer on the drive with a little hook. Comes up short. I think he might have caught a little hand on the way up there. And now Hart comes back the other way. Hart inside Johnson.
One thing I noticed about Florida State is that one thing about Coach Leonard Hamilton, I don't ever think Coach thinks that he's got a victory secure, because they can be up 40 points and, you know, the walk-on guys aren't going to get, walk-on guys aren't getting in before a minute and a half in this Florida State system. It's usually about a minute. They're going to get in. I mean, they could be up 50. Coach Ham still thinks there's an opportunity for the other team to come back.
Andre Walker lays it in, so a little good run for Loyola. You got Leonard Hamilton. He's up, he's walking, he's moving, he's still coaching. 3 minutes left to play with a win seemingly right around the corner, and now he'll call a timeout. So Florida State going to talk over a few things. Up 19 with 3:20 left to play. It's 86-67 Seminoles. Back here in Tallahassee as the Seminole Sound continues to play. It's 86-67 FSU with 3:20 left here in regulation. Seminoles men's and women's basketball teams sharing this recently renovated facility. It's no longer the arena of many colors, Adrian Crawford. It's got a consistent garnet. We've got a whole bunch of brand new electronics within the last couple of seasons. It's a beautiful look for an arena that's got a really good couple of basketball teams to play in it.
Absolutely, it has gone a long way. Big time pass that time, Wyatt Wilkes. Shaki Obiaglu that time. Yeah, it's definitely come a long way. When I used to play, wasn't great lighting, seats multicolored. We used to actually call it the coffin. Okay. Especially in a couple of those years when we were losing, because we felt like every time we came in here, it was like we played like death. It felt like death. But, man, they really revitalized this place. So, big ups to the entire the boosters, to Stan Wilcox, our AD, Coach Ham, Coach Sue. Again, you got a winning program. You got facilities facilities do matter. Recruiting and getting these players here. And again, you want to be able to take some pride into where you play at. And again, our Florida State Booster Club, along with our administration, with President Thrasher, has invested into our athletic program, especially basketball, and we're seeing it again with a good product that they're putting on the floor.
Yeah, the facilities here at Florida State are certainly no slouch in regards to some
I don't
of the
know
other
if Jimbo
programs
Fisher thought. I don't know.
I wasn't going to go there, but you sure took it there. That is the $75 million question.
Hey, again, last time I heard is that facilities didn't call plays or turn the ball over either. So, but we'll leave that alone.
The amount of shade that is coming from my right now.
Hey, man, it's got to be Petty. Just call me Tom Petty tonight. So.
Oh, man. Back to basketball with 2:24 left to play. It's 91-67 Florida State. I think this is the direction that we're going to want to take this one.
Oh, no, we absolutely need to. I mean, again, it's it's 91-67. There's not a whole lot more basketball that we can talk about. Okay. So we can just talk about, the fact, listen, being a Florida State guy, I'm a coach's kid, so I stick up for coaches. I believe in coaches, but listen.
Meanwhile, it's showtime here. I got you. And it's showtime
I'm just saying,
here.
it's $6 million a year, and then we're talking about facilities.
Well, I will say this, you don't want to minimize what Jimbo Fisher's done in the way he's revitalized the football program at Florida State. And now here Willie Taggart's come in with some fresh-faced enthusiasm, and I think, after a hard week for Florida State, and let's not, make it seem as if Jimbo Fisher had an easy decision to make.
No, don't get me.
A hard week for Jimbo Fisher as well. I think there's some reason to smile for all parties now with Willie Taggart here, with a good basketball team in Florida State. Jimbo Fisher moving on to try to rebuild that Texas A&M program and get them back to national prominence. So a good deal all around, I think, for a whole lot of people. It might not feel like it right now for a few fans, but I think it's going to work out just fine here in Tallahassee.
No, I would agree with you, and I would say this again. I've had nothing but pleasant interaction with Coach Fisher. Super thankful again. We got a national championship here. Great indoor practice facility, revitalized things. It's done a great job. I think the only thing, being a guy who's a Florida State, being a graduate here at Florida State University, the one thing I didn't like was at the press conference kind of taking a shot at administration. And, you know, and again, feeling like at times not taking responsibility. Again, you know, one thing I always tell my son is that in leadership is that you got to take all parts of leadership. You got to take the good parts of leadership. You got to take the bad parts of leadership. And what I felt a little bit this upcoming year is that when we were losing, it was this thing of where administration, facilities, things like that. And again, I think great leaders, they take responsibility. Again, I believe in the principle everything rises and falls on leadership. So again, I wish nothing but the best for Coach Fisher. Again, he's been, you know, nothing but great for Florida State but, you know, I think that it was, you know, good decision for him. I think it's a good decision for us going forward.
About a 13 or so second differential between shot clock and game clock.
Again,
speaking of leaders, trying to lead this team to a big win.
What did I tell you? It's 30 seconds. We are up 25 points. And the walk-ons, I mean, they didn't even got the bottoms off.
Oh,
they don't even have the bottoms off. I mean, they're not even sniffing the floor.
And I will say, too,
I think sometimes Coach Ham thinks there's a 25-point shot in there, or like they can get back in the game like it's like rock and jock basketball.
Hey, you know, Loyola can roll this out. And I will mention, now that you mentioned the tops and the bottoms and whatnot, I was on Twitter the other day, and the gold unis were voted on by the fans. So the fans getting to see the unis that they voted on as Loyola will run the clock out. It'll be a 96-71 victory for Florida State. Are paying off great. The Seminoles, with the final seconds ticking away, will pick up a 25-point victory and are now 8-0 for the first time since 2008.
Again, I think this Florida State basketball team, again, another great time, another great victory for them. And again, I think it's just continue to keep building. And again, great day today by C.J. Walker, M.J. Walker. I mean, the Walker boys. The Walker boys came out today, played incredibly well. And again, I think we're just taking those right steps in the right direction.
So if there was anybody who was concerned that Florida State might be caught napping, it might not have been exactly the defensive effort that you might have wanted to see, but the offense still rolling. M.J. Walker still dealing from beyond the arc. And the Seminoles, even without the likes of having your 7'4" center and Chris Kumaji, are still producing on the offensive side of the court. And plenty of reason to smile as they're one of 10 teams in the country that's undefeated. And it looks like they're poised to climb those rankings moving forward. Ari Masudi is standing by with our player of the game, C.J. Walker.
All right, thanks, Sean. Tonight's player of the game, C.J. Walker, 15 points tonight. And C.J., what was the mentality coming out in this game after a big win over Florida on the road?
It was just to come in. We were back home. It felt good to be back home, but it was just play this game like it was our most important game, just have a championship mentality, just come to this game and just have energy. That was the biggest thing because it took a lot against Florida. They're a really good team, so this game was just try to have that same championship mindset, just give all we could.
You've been really hot the last 3 games. Just talk about your role this season on this specific basketball team after the year you had last year.
This year, just being more vocal leader this year, just to step up on that scoring role for my team when they need me to, and just do whatever Coach Ham asks me to, whether it's defense, offense, I just do what it has to take for the team to win.
I asked you yesterday if you thought people were sleeping on Florida State. After that win against Florida, what do you think people are saying about the Noles?
People are most definitely watching us now, so we just got to play hard every game because we got a target on our back now. So that's pretty much the biggest thing I can say.
And then my last question for you, what do you know about this team, this point in this season, and this non-conference schedule?
We're nowhere to where we want to be. We got a lot to improve on. We got an ACC and stuff coming up, so we just want to get really prepared and just be ready to play.
All right, well, great job tonight. Thanks for joining me. All right, thanks, Sean.
So it is a 96-71 victory for Florida State. Adrian, a pleasure working with you and Ari Masudi, and for Adrian and Aria and our entire team here in Tallahassee. Sean Davidson saying so long from the Donald L. Tucker Center, where the Seminoles move on to 8-0 with a 25-point victory. All games on our ESPN family of networks are streaming live on Watch ESPN app or WatchESPN.com. You can watch this game on replay as well. This has been a presentation of ESPN. Seminoles welcoming Coach Taggart to the football side, and the Seminoles still undefeated on the hard court.